Lorene Bible doesn't wear her grief like a wound. She uses it to knit a mantle of armor. She's not the kind of mother who weeps on camera, clutching pearls. She's forged of something harder, steel, tempered in the hellfires of a mother's search for the people who took her daughter, the kind of fire that burns in the space between not knowing and never giving up. In those forging fires, she became a blade, sharp, unbending. She's cut through lies and whispers, slicing to the truth and exposing the darkness hidden beneath. Her mission has always been to cut, to gouge the earth in search of her daughter, to dissect theories and separate the maybes from the possiblies, to slice straight to the heart of what matters, finding Laura and Ashley. For 25 years, Lorene Bible has worked to soften the interrogatives in her daughter's case into periods, coaxing answers from reluctant lips, carving paths where none existed, and she's hardened whispers into testimony, forcing those too afraid to speak to finally name the evil that killed a husband and wife and kidnapped 2 teenage girls. Lorene Bible isn't without emotion. She isn't immune to grief, but the fire that consumed the Freeman trailer also forged her into a fierce, hardened blade. Because in the search for Laura and Ashley, Lorene is both weapon and warrior. She fights institutional apathy, fear, and time. She fights for justice, for her daughter, and for the Freeman family. Laura's disappearance cut deep, so Lorene became the blade, the one that would excise the jagged, festering wound, trimming it clean until what remained was truth. And with clean edges, the wound may finally heal into a scar that, while permanent, no longer festers. This is part 3 of The Girls Are Gone on Crime to Burn. Welcome to Crime to Burn, where we explore the dark, sooty landscape where true crime intersects with arson and criminal negligence. Join us as we sift through the ashes to bring you the story of what really happened. Welcome back to Crime to Burn. I'm April, a fire protection engineer and former firefighter.
And I'm Dr. Thermogeddon Flux, rogue pyrotemporalist and exiled founder of the Bureau of Combustible Realities. I was banned from 14 dimensions for inventing the match that burned backwards through time. I'm recording from inside a scorched time loop bubble where every sentence is both a clue and a spark. My only companions are a haunted fire alarm, a jar labeled "Do Not Open," I already did, and a mannequin whose eye twitches when the truth gets too close. I didn't start the great soot surge of '92, but I also didn't not start it. This week, we're burning down the fourth wall and roasting marshmallows on its ashes.
Please follow us on social media, including YouTube, TikTok, X, and of course Instagram. We post regularly to keep you apprised of what we're working on, and we try to throw some lightheartedness in there from time to time to keep you on your toes and to keep the therapy bills reasonable. When you see content from us, interacting with that content is a free way that you can help support the podcast. Repost it, give it a like, leave a comment, add it to your favorites, or DM it to someone you know. We love seeing that new listeners are finding us every day, and if you are new here, welcome. We'd love it if you take the time to leave us a 5-star rating and written review wherever you get your podcasts. Those ratings and reviews are incredibly helpful to get us pushed out to more people so we can find our audience and grow. In addition, if you listen on a platform that allows individual episode comments, leaving us those comments tells the platform that our listeners are engaging with us, and that is incredibly helpful. Plus, people that leave positive reviews and episode comments are known to be better looking than those that don't, according to my completely non-scientific studies on the matter.
And they smell nice.
Another thing that helps improve your looks is your wardrobe, so you'll probably want to head on over to our spread shop to buy some Crime to Burn gear because damn, it sure would look nice on you. The links are in the show notes. As always, we welcome your own fire stories, feedback, and case suggestions at crimetoburn@gmail.com, and don't forget to tell your friends about us. There's also another way that you can support the show if you are in the market for a dog containment system. As you're all likely well aware, we do have a dog, Winston, and we desperately love Winston, but Winston is high energy and low impulse control.
And he's just one backyard away from a misdemeanor.
And we were desperate to find a containment system to keep him in our yard but allow him to run free to work off some of that hound dog energy. So after several failed attempts to use GPS and satellite collars from other brands, we purchased the Paulius wireless dog fence. No wires, no digging, no drama. It gives him the freedom to run.
Without turning the neighbor's garden into a crime scene.
Just sweet, invisible boundaries. Because Winston doesn't need a rap sheet.
Just a radius.
We've been so happy with the Polyus system that we contacted them and asked if we could be an affiliate, and they agreed. So if you're looking for a concern-free canine containment contraption to save your sanity, visit www.polyus.com, that's P-A-W-I-O-U-S, and if you use the code CRIME2BURN at checkout, you will get 10% off your purchase. Or you can find the affiliate link in our show notes. For each purchase made using the code CRIME2BURN, we will receive a small commission. But seriously, it's the first system we found that truly works to keep Winston happily hanging at home.
Instead of being the neighborhood's hooligan hound.
So zoom me right on over to www.polyus.com and remember to use the code CRIME2BURN at checkout. This is our third episode of the Lorene Bible and Ashley Freeman case. As we've already covered, the girls were spending the night at Ashley's house when sometime either late in the night on December 29th or early in the morning on December 30th, 1999, the trailer caught fire. Inside the trailer, the remains of Danny and Kathy Freeman, Ashley's parents, were eventually found. Both had been shot in the head before the fire was set. But because police initially found only Kathy's body and missed Danny's, they lost a full 24 hours of search time. Authorities claimed that they had believed Danny murdered Kathy and kidnapped the girls, or at least that's what they said. Either way, they turned the case over to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation and officially backed off. Then the rumors began. Rumors that Danny Freeman had been dealing meth and owed the wrong people money. Rumors that the Craig County Sheriff's Office had killed the family to avoid a wrongful death lawsuit over the earlier shooting of Danny and Kathy's son Shane. Some even whispered that the Sheriff's Office was responsible, directly or indirectly, and that it had ties to the very drug dealers it should have been investigating. And while law enforcement flailed, private investigators got closer to the truth. They were circling names like Welch, Busick, and Pennington, names that we'll be returning to. But instead of following their lead, police did the least logical thing imaginable. They threatened the PIs and shut them down. Then the case went cold for the cops. But it never went cold for Lorene and Jay Bible. If the police wouldn't find their daughter, Lorene Bible vowed that she would. In 2000, police were stalled. There had been no confirmed sightings of the girls and no real evidence upon which to anchor the investigation. And it seems to me that if you're a law enforcement agency, say the Craig County Sheriff's Office, and you might have some dark secrets like ties to the methamphetamine underworld that you really don't want exposed, the easiest way to divert attention is to point that attention far away from yourself. Like to say, Mexico. Now I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm not saying that it didn't either. Either way, the suggestion that the girls may have been trafficked by Mexican drug cartels and not through the local meth scene began to circulate. It seems that this theory may have originated with the Craig County Sheriff's Office, though it could just have easily been the OSBI. Either way, it was a theory that conveniently pulled scrutiny off of local law enforcement and out of the country entirely. And sure, it felt far-fetched. The idea that international drug cartels would target two teenagers staying at a trailer already under scrutiny by the Sheriff's Office, it felt wrong. But it was a theory, and Lorene Bible was determined to cut straight to the heart of it. So she dug. She asked dangerous people scary questions, and she did it with the same casual intent you might reserve for booking a haircut. Eventually, she reached the people in the inner circles of the cartel, and when she sat down for a meeting with one of them, he asked her, "How do you know I won't kill you?" And Lorene, she didn't blink, she didn't flinch. She fired back, "How do you know I won't kill you?"
That's a fair.
Something in her fearlessness softened him, and he answered her questions. She told him what she'd heard, that the girls may have been trafficked to Mexico, and he told her that if that were the case, he was the man who could find out, and he vowed that he would. And he kept his word. Months later, he sent word back. No cartel in Mexico had the girls.
Like he could find that out?
It took
like in all of Mexico?
That's what he said.
Was he got an app for that?
I think he just had a lot of connections with all the other cartels. And
asking around is like in a town. This is a whole country.
Well, yeah, and he said it would take a while.
You think?
Well, what he was saying was he knew what I took away, and this is some surmising on my part, but what I took away was that he was saying that he knew which cartels were operating in the area that could have taken the girls, and he had the connections that could get to those cartels to find out if the girls were taken to be trafficked, if that was really what they were doing, because that was what the theory was.
Why aren't three-letter agencies recruiting this guy?
Right? They should. That's a great idea. No cartel in Mexico had the girls. Another theory gutted by the steel blade of Lorene's determination to find her daughter. With the cartel string of the rumor web cut clean, Lorene Bible turned her focus back to northeastern Oklahoma, where the meth trade carved its own well-worn pathways through dusty backroads and rural highways, leading straight into makeshift labs run by men who trafficked in violence, threats, and drugs that stripped more than just the enamel off your teeth. One lead came from a woman, a witness. She claimed she'd seen a videotape, a disturbing one. In it, a young girl with dirty blonde hair bound and gagged. In the background was a very distinctive rock wall, and that detail stuck, because that same kind of rock wall reportedly existed inside the home of Chester Shadwick, a known meth dealer living in Wyandotte, Oklahoma. To make matters even more concerning, confidential informants had come forward alleging that they had seen body parts being buried on Shadwick's property sometime soon after the girls went missing.
Time out. Someone reported seeing body parts being buried? If you got a good enough resolution to be able to see the individual body parts...
They were party to it.
Got it. Did they get immunity for saying that?
I don't know.
All right.
Law enforcement, perhaps reluctantly or perhaps they were just bored, did secure a warrant and executed a search. During that search, they seized VHS tapes, a roll of undeveloped film, and various other materials. None of it, at least according to the official story, contained anything that linked to Laura or Ashley's disappearance. Investigative documents mention, quote, disturbed earth, unquote, on the property, but it's unclear if anyone ever actually dug up those areas. And given the track record in this case, it's entirely possible that no one thought to bring a shovel. But Lorene didn't even know about the Shadwick search until it was complete, and investigators had watched those VHS tapes they collected, which I imagine probably held I Love Lucy reruns, or at least that's what I hope. Investigators decided that Lorene was too pushy of a mother missing her daughter, and that they'd best handle this without the pressure of private citizens asking completely reasonable questions. But the next tip, that one came directly to Lorene. A known meth cook confessed to an acquaintance that he knew who had taken the girls, and he pointed the finger at a father-son entrepreneurial duo. Businessmen, you might say. Dealers of meth, operators of a chop shop. Same name, 2 generations. Paul Glover Jr. and Sr. And while they shared a name, their true legacy was the trail they left in their wake. A trail of ruined lives, burned bridges, and a reputation for extracting revenge on anyone who crossed them. When the OSBI obtained a warrant to search the Glover property, they cataloged at least one blood-stained piece of carpet as evidence. And the official findings? Well, your guess is as good as mine. According to Jax Miller, the results were relayed to the families only by word of mouth, no formal documentation, no report, just whispers. Lorene Bible was told it was some sort of oily substance, like maybe chainsaw oil. The Freeman family, they were told it was animal blood. What it actually was, no one seems to know.
Man, I've seen both things, and there's really no mistaking one for the other. I said what I said.
That's why it gets harder and harder to believe that the police weren't intentionally jacking this investigation up. But here's what we do know. Had that blood turned out to be significant, had it been evidence that Laura or Ashley had ever been in that home, it would have been inadmissible in court. Why? Because our old buddy, Agent Nutter, he never filed the final paperwork with the court. And honestly, I don't know what's more insulting. That this failure might have been intentional, lending weight to the theory that the police were intentionally sabotaging the investigation, or that it was just another glaring example of incompetence on Agent Nutter's part. Neither explanation is particularly charitable, and either one seems entirely possible. And so the story goes, with tips, with whispers, with suggestions passed hand to hand like contraband. And with Lorene Bible cutting through each one, navigating the maddening process of trying to get police to see what was right in front of them. Fighting to push past the red tape before the truth, like everything else in this case, disappeared forever. And then a voice, loud, resonant, cutting through the whispers and hush-toned rumors that had dominated this case so far. It was the voice of Tommy Lynn Sells. Yes, that Tommy Lynn Sells. The serial killer arrested on January 2nd, 2000, just days after the fire, and already serving time for multiple murders, when he decided to lend his voice to the investigation into Laura and Ashley's disappearance. And what did he say? That he was responsible, that he killed them. But Tommy Lynn Sells had hobbies outside of murder. He dabbled in drugs and in fiction, and not the kind you pick up at your local library. Sells preferred to write his own stories.
My spider sense went off.
And unfortunately for this case, he confessed to multiple murders he couldn't possibly have committed. It seems he used these lies in order to manipulate his way into better treatment, more media attention, and a little more control over his narrative. And let me tell you, if there's one thing I hate, it's a serial killer media whore. So it pains me to even bring up his name. But here we are, in an effort to tell the whole story so you can fully appreciate what the Bible and Freeman families have endured. When investigators dug into his claims, the details were vague at best. Sells blamed the gaps in his memory on drug-induced memory loss, a convenient excuse when your timeline makes zero sense. Because in order for his version to be true, Sells would have needed a time machine to get from his last known documented location to Welch, to kill the Freemans, kidnap the girls, and vanish without a trace and make it to the next location where he is documented and there's proof of his presence. It just doesn't fit into any sort of believable timeline. And just like a bad science fiction plot, the confession unraveled completely. Another lie, another delay, another moment where hope was dangled in front of the families, only to be yanked away again. And Lorene Bible didn't have time for fiction. She still had a daughter to find. But it turns out Sells wasn't the only media whore with a trail of bodies in his wake. In 2005, Jeremy Jones, another convicted killer with a flair for dramatic arts and a weak grip on the truth, stepped into the limelight, confessing to Laura and Ashley's murders.
What the fuck, man? It's a battle to the bottom.
He claimed he dumped their bodies in an abandoned mine shaft in Kansas. But I can't lay this one entirely at Jones's feet, because during his interrogation, whenever he wasn't sure of a detail, it seemed there were a lot of really convenient pee and smoke breaks during which many alleged the police appear to have coached him on his answers. Apparently, catering to his bladder and nicotine addiction was the key to, quote, clarifying, unquote, his memory. Because nothing says reliable confession like a guided tour through your own lies. And if the police were coaching him, which I'm not saying they were and I'm not saying they weren't, then why? I mean, isn't it weird how so many things in this case just happen to pull the investigation away from all the places it actually belongs? It almost seems conspiratorial, doesn't it? And if it keeps up, I'll need to take a break and go fashion my own tinfoil hat.
I got a tinfoil fedora you can borrow.
I know. Eventually, Jones admitted that his confession was about as reliable as Agent Nutter's ability to identify dead bodies in burned-out trailers. He recanted, explaining he confessed to try to leverage special treatment. For Lorene and J. Bible, every false confession that diverted attention from their daughter cut another fiber in the rope holding their hope together. But their resolve, that was made of stronger stuff. With Jones's recantation, another theory was excised. And with every slice that trimmed away the lies, the rumors, and the misdirection, Lorene never wavered in her determination to find the girls. With every weakness in the investigation, Lorene hardened. She steeled herself, and she pushed that knife deeper into the soft white underbelly of lies and rumors that had dominated this case for years. Law enforcement, meanwhile, they behaved like kittens in a room full of laser pointers, chasing bad leads and fictional confessions like their lives depended on it. But Lorene had focus that they didn't. Unfortunately, what she didn't have was a box. One specific box. Because while police were out chasing their tails, the box that would eventually crack the case was sitting right inside the Craig County Sheriff's Office. A literal box of evidence discovered in a back room when a new sheriff took over and decided to tidy up. And there it was. Files, statements, leads. The very thing law enforcement should have followed up on nearly 2 decades earlier, boxed up, misplaced, and forgotten. Or maybe not forgotten, maybe buried. Hard to say, easy to allege. No one's ever provided an explanation, but that box wasn't just filled with paper, it was filled with failure, with negligence, and maybe even corruption. And it pointed in a clear direction, one that Tom Pryor and Joe Dugan had already been facing before they were threatened off the case. 3 names whispered since the day the Freeman bodies were found and Laura and Ashley vanished came roaring back into view. Welch, Pennington, Busick. Names that had seemed intentionally blurred were now snapping back into focus. And that insurance card, the one belonging to Welch's girlfriend, the woman known only as EB, that was the string that tied the knot. She confirmed that Welch often drove her car, and while she wasn't at the Freeman property that night, her car almost certainly was, which meant one thing: Welch was there. And if Welch was there, there's a damn good chance Pennington and Busick were right there with him. Phil Welch wasn't just a meth cooker or a drug dealer, he was a walking embodiment of terror. A man who left behind women so traumatized, they stayed silent for decades. If evil walked the earth, it walked in Phil Welch's shoes. Those who knew him described him as sadistic, someone who took joy in fear. He glorified the terror of women, inflicted violence without hesitation, and inspired dread in people who should have been able to stop him. One cop who lived near him once explained why he didn't report or intervene the abuse he saw Welch committing against his wife at the time. He said, quote, "I had a family to protect," unquote. It seems a gun and a badge weren't adequate protection against someone like Welch. His reputation is so vile that to discuss his full history would probably land all of us in therapy together, so let's just say whatever you're imagining, it was worse. And David Pennington and Ronnie Busick, they weren't innocent bystanders. Some described Welch like a cult leader, keeping weak-minded but able-bodied men under his control with methamphetamines and fear. And whatever that allure was, Pennington and Busick drank the Kool-Aid. But after Agent Nutter retired from the OSBI and a new agent took over the case, something shifted. Whispers and rumors began to resonate louder, solidifying into testimony. Multiple women came forward, not just with suspicion, but with memories. Memories they'd buried under their fear for years. Because Phil Welch was dead now, and along with him, the death threats that had kept their tongues tied. And here's the thing, their memories, they aligned. Their statements matched. And no one needed to offer them bathroom breaks to clarify the details. They remembered Polaroid photographs, photos that showed Laura and Ashley bound, gagged, and terrified. Welch reportedly kept those photos as trophies, warning the women who saw them that if they ever spoke out, they would be next. And some of these women were just teenagers at the time, caught up in a world of meth, abuse, and violence. Police were able to corroborate that these women had been close to Welch, Busick, and Pennington. And their stories, they weren't vague, they weren't coached. They were consistent, specific, and harrowingly real. They weren't killers seeking fame or favors, and they weren't trying to manipulate the system. These were witnesses finally speaking the same truth, the same photos, the same threats, the same men. And suddenly, Lorene Bible's 2 decades of suspicions were no longer whispers, they were statements. Voices once silenced were now resonating together, cutting through decades of silence. The long overdue truth was finally cutting free from the web of lies and incompetence and institutional apathy. By the time the woman came forward, Lorene Bible had already known the truth. She may not have had the paperwork or the press conferences or the courtroom record to confirm it, but she knew. Laura and Ashley were dead. But now, new knowledge cut deep and painful. The girls had not died the night of the fire, they had been kept alive and tortured, possibly for days or maybe even weeks. One woman described the way Welch kept them restrained, another described the fear in their eyes in the photos. And they were abused, and that's as detailed as I'm going to get about it. And then they were discarded. And by the time law enforcement was finally willing to listen, 2 of the 3 men responsible were already dead. Phil Welch died in 2007, and David Pennington died in 2015. That left one man alive, Ronnie Dean Busick. And in April of 2018, Busick was arrested and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and arson. The affidavit laid it all out: the witness statements, the Polaroids, the threats, the dark web of control Welch had spun, the women too scared to speak, and the girls who had never come home. For the Bible and Freeman families, it was a moment that should have felt like justice finally knocking. But Busick wasn't Welch, and he wasn't Pennington. But I guess 1 out of 3 is better than nothing. He was the tag-along, the one who stood by, who didn't kill but knew and helped and said nothing. In 2020, Busick accepted a plea deal. He pled guilty to being an accessory to murder after the fact. He admitted he helped dispose of the girls' bodies. In return, he was sentenced to 15 years with parole eligibility after just 7. He also agreed to help locate the girls' remains, but like everything else in this case, that promise was hollow. As part of his 2020 plea deal, Ronnie Busick agreed to help locate Laura and Ashley's remains. It was the bare minimum, the one piece of closure that the families had begged for. And like everything else about Busick's involvement, it came too late and too vague. He told investigators that the girls had been dumped in one of the thousands of abandoned mines scattered across Pitcher, Oklahoma, a toxic ghost town poisoned by old mines and collapsing mine shafts. He also spoke about a root cellar on the property once occupied by David Pennington. He brought it up more than once. His own stepdaughter said he was obsessive about keeping people away from it. So in October of 2021, police searched the root cellar. And like so many efforts in this case, they found nothing, no remains, and no evidence, and no justice. Just another scar in the landscape full of them. Despite his plea deal and despite his promises, Ronnie Busick never gave investigators anything that led to the location of the girls' bodies. They said his brain, his memory, were eaten away by decades of meth and a life poorly lived. And his one chance at even partial redemption at doing something right was lost to the ravages of a derelict mind. And then came the final insult. Ronnie Busick was released from prison. After serving just a few years of his 15-year sentence, the only man ever charged in connection to the murders of Lorene Bible and Ashley Freeman walked out of prison in 2024, a free man. They said he had severe health problems. Some alleged that the state simply didn't want to keep footing the bill for his medical care. But it sure feels like an injustice that he gets to wither and die at home, while Laura and Ashley have never been laid to rest, while their families are still denied the one thing they've begged for since 1999, closure. And while that hurt, Lorene Bible did not bend. She did not break. Lorene Bible is still cutting away at the festering wound, debriding the ragged edges, breaking into the earth, searching for the girls. She has vowed to never give up. The latest searches and digs occurred in late 2024, and there are reports that additional searches are scheduled for this year. Searches based on tips, on leads, on people finally stepping forward with what they know. And if you know something, if you've heard something, if you've seen something, now it's your turn. I've included a link in the show notes for the Facebook page that's run by the Bible family, along with numbers where you can leave anonymous tips. If you have information that you have not shared in this case, we beg of you to come forward. Because while it may sound like the end of the story, it's not. Because Lorene Bible, she's made of steel, and she cuts straight to the core. And Ronnie Busick's release wasn't just unacceptable, it was an injustice. One that she intends to make sure never happens again. Ronnie Busick walked free. After serving less than 3 years of a 10-year sentence for accessory to murder, he was released early thanks to good behavior credits he earned and time served.
I hope he never experiences another release.
That meant he got credit for things like brushing his teeth and making his bed and keeping his cell clean.
Oh, good boy.
Meanwhile, Laura and Ashley are still missing and their families are still searching. And for Lorene Bible, that wasn't just a failure, that was a betrayal. So she did what she always does. She fought back. Alongside State Representative Steve Bushore, Lorene helped craft Laura and Ashley's Law, a bill designed to ensure that no one convicted of accessory to first or second degree murder could walk away early again. The law mandates that those convicted must serve at least 85% of their sentence before becoming eligible for parole or for having their sentence commuted. No more early release for good behavior, no more loopholes. Now this bill faced hurdles. It stalled in the Senate in 2024, but Lorene didn't stop. She lobbied and she testified, and she made sure her daughter's voice was heard. And in May of 2025, this month, The governor signed Laura and Ashley's law into law, and it is set to take effect on November 1st, 2025. For Lorene, it's not just about justice for Laura and Ashley, it's about protecting other families from enduring the same pain. And Lorene Bible is still searching, still fighting, still cutting through the darkness with the blade of her determination. And now, thanks to her, this law stands as a testament to her unwavering pursuit of justice. And Lorene Bible, a woman forged into a blade of steel, isn't done. She will continue to cut through the earth searching for her daughter, and she will continue to cut away at something even more difficult. The festering hate and loathing that any mother would carry for the man complicit in her child's death. You see, Lorene turned that figurative knife upon her own heart, not to destroy it, but to carve out space, to cut away the bitterness, to make room for something almost unfathomable: forgiveness. Here's an excerpt from Lorene's victim impact statement when Ronnie Busick was sentenced in her daughter's killing. "We choose not to be filled with hatred and bitterness. We forgive you so that we may free ourselves to move on. You have no power over us. We give you grace so that we may feel peace." In the end, it wasn't Ronnie Busick's lies that had the final word. It was Lorene Bible's grace. And the blade she forged in the fire, she still carries it. Not to strike, but to cut through silence and through shame, and through every lie that still stands between her and the truth. And that's the story of Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman on Crime to Burn.
I hear your echo in there. It's like a cave. I once interrogated a flame until it confessed.
I'm the human equivalent of a dropped lasagna. Messy, confusing, but still weirdly comforting.
It sounds like it has hair in it. I'll sick my bot on your bot, and then you won't have a bot. I said assimilate, not fornicate.
This chair is so squeaky today. Or my jeans are. I don't know.
You haven't lubricated your jeans lately.
I have not.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
You started off with beautiful and ended up at spreadsheet.
Spreadsheets
It was only a couple seconds. I don't understand where we went.
are an art form. Well, I need the architects to make rational decisions based on actual facts and not what they want the code to say.
I blame what? That's as far as I'll abuse. It's like blaming it for other people's problems.
The only person I ever met in my life that actually wore an ascot was an architect.
I don't think an ascot's a poor fashion choice, though. I think it's to hide the shame of excessive chest hair.
She gets a little cranky when she gets the low blood sugar.
I've never tried that with the Minions. They can find about anything, but I've never really had...
Did you eat your burrito last night?
I ate like a part of it.
Minions made me think of the burrito.
Why? Is it made of Minions?
No, they're the same shape. Cylindrical.
Wow. You're right, but I never would have made that leap.
We should leave that as a Yelp review. Your burritos are perfectly minion shaped.
You know, some creatures you can eat partially live, like yogurt. The way your mind works, it just goes in the back door, doesn't it?
It's more like a tilt-a-whirl.
Your back door?
No. My mind.
What kind of broke-ass tilt-a-whirl were you on?
And then sometimes you get the tilt-a-whirl car that has a vendetta.
Really?
A spinny vendetta.
It's got it out for you.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I don't ever know which tilt-a-whirl car my brain's going to end up in. It's like trying to predict a
fart in a bathtub.
Why would you... Like, what are the prediction challenges there? I don't want to bathe in that.
In what?
An untrustworthy fart.
You don't want to bathe in an untrustworthy... No one does.
Right, so that's why I'm saying that, no, you can't trust a fart in a bathtub either.
What was the tilt-a-whirl of your brain?
My brain.
That's why none of this is working. We just burst into song spontaneously.
Jazz hands.
And that's how true crime becomes a musical. If you saw the second Boondock Saints, you would know that. What is wrong with you?
I don't know.
You're broken.
Might be.
I don't know how to fix you.
It's a tilt-a-whirl problem.
Do you have anxiety because of the unpredictability of tilt-a-whirls? Let me touch this thing a couple times. It's going to make the noise. Make the noise. Oh, yeah. All she has to do is take the pebble from my hand My God, it's too close to me. Let's back a couple of feet. That's a mess. I'm just going to start over.
Okay.
Goose Fagua. I'm saving your life.
You did it with the same casual ferocity you might reserve for booking a haircut.
What? Casual ferocity? Booking a haircut?
I really get amped up about booking haircuts.
You're going to make my hairstylist nervous saying stuff like that. I don't think that's a thing.
I'm here for the full support of your biological needs.
You want to hold it for me? No, it doesn't sound like full support.
I mean, I guess if you needed me to.
How the hell did you get tickled like that while I was gone? What have you been doing? Man, are you alright? Holy sh**. What happened to you? Like, you've operated a fire hose, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be like that.
Okay.
You want to, like, apply some downward pressure, like, throw your weight into it.
I messed up my makeup over that.
Were you laughing the whole time I was peeing?
The whole time. If you listen to the audio back, it's just me cackling.
Wow.
And I was trying to get it under control, and I couldn't.
Well, this is why I don't let you hold it for me.
Yeah.
That'd be catastrophic.
It'd be something.
You wouldn't be prepared for the surge. You'd be thrown back. Your face is wet.
If I'm laughing, my face is wet.
One of these episodes, we should reverse roles.
Oh, where you read the story and I stop you?
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to scrub my mind of all the thoughts I'm having right now. Mm-hmm. And then she met the guy who knew everyone in Mexico. He lives high above Teotihuacan, and he looks down on the people, and he's a benevolent ruler.
Welch, Pennington, and Busey. Oh, the town is called Welch, and the suspect's called Welch. It's very confusing.
Was there any grape jelly involved? What the f*** are you describing?
It was homemade.
Well, what kind of corporate are you watching? My questions are fair. Why is it that meteorites always land in craters? What you just told me was hurted my mind.
What?
With like a secret handshake or something?
Yeah.
Got it. I'm thinking of like this really cool high five combination, hand gesture, slap it and snap it.
A toxic ghost town filled with the poisoned remains of old mines and collapsing shafts.
This whole story has collapsed my shaft, that's for sure. You want to see my tits? There's a lot of conditions under which your face gets wet. I've noticed that different people have different doodads.
Why are you checking people's doodads?
That's something I would pay not to see. Assume it's piss.
Yeah.
Don't interact with it. One might get the impression that I might have been to space, and they wouldn't be far off. Well, that was just the road to preparation.
If we sit in these chairs much longer, I'm going to be on the road to preparation H.
I feel like my ass is getting stronger through this experience. I feel like I'm working up my ass stamina through this, which is going to be important. Let's not tell anybody that one way or another. Yeah.
Nope.
It's just me and you.
That's just us.
We'll just know that.
Yeah.
The flux watches. The flux waits. The flux forgot why it came here. Until next cycle, keep your timeline stable, your matches dry, and your fire alarm slightly suspicious. This is Dr. Thermageddon Flux, reminding you, if reality starts to smolder, don't put it out. Study it.
This has been your regularly scheduled descent into soot and suspicion. See you next week.
From the bunker of my ball sack.
That's my favorite. All right, I'm turning it off.
Hey BC3 crew, and listen, I know you're like, BC3 crew, but listen, yes, if you're here, that means you're part of the BC3 crew. I'm already claiming you. My name is Jasmine C.L. Prince, and I'm here to introduce you to my new true crime podcast, Black Coffee, Crime, and Crochet. Now, I know what you're thinking, another true crime podcast, and I get it. Trust me, I do. But let me tell you why you need to be a part of the crew.
For real.
We're talking true crime, right? But with a twist. We're covering exclusive cases by Black men and women. And we're talking fraud, scams, and even murder, okay? Murder. And that's your typical gang and drug murders. No. We covering frauds, scams, influencer people just taking people's money for no reason. Y'all remember the PPP stuff? Yeah, we're covering that.
That's crazy.
So make sure you join me every Tuesday for Black Coffee, Crime, and Crochet. Subscribe now and let's sip, stitch, and spill some true crime tea.